Welcome back to the channel, folks, where we dive into the wild, wonderful world of men transforming into women in all kinds of fascinating ways. If that's your vibe, don't forget to smash that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Now let's jump right into today's story.
Chapter 4: The Art of the Push-Up Deal. Brian's car was a battered old Civic that smelled like gym socks and cinnamon gum, with just a hint of whatever fast food had been recently sacrificed to the floor mats. Nicole slid into the passenger seat, immediately aware of how differently her body occupied the space. Her legs were shorter, forcing her to adjust the seat forward, and her hips pressed snugly against the seat in a way Nick's never had. The world seemed a little bigger from her new, smaller vantage point, the dashboard higher, the windshield wider, even Brian's suddenly looming larger beside her. "You look like you're sitting in your dad's car for the first time," Brian observed, turning the key in the ignition. The Civic coughed to life with a reluctant rumble. Nicole fidgeted with the seatbelt, struggling to find a comfortable position that didn't either crush her new breasts or leave them bouncing freely. "Everything's different," she said, finally settling on a diagonal arrangement that seemed to work. "It's like being in someone else's body." "It is someone else's body," Brian pointed out, pulling out of the parking lot. "Technically." He glanced over, his expression softening into a grin when he caught her nervous fingers tapping against her thigh. "First time out as a girl and you're nervous? Relax, Nicole. You survived my chili last Super Bowl. This'll be a breeze." Nicole shot him a look that could have curdled milk. "Easy for you to say. You're not the one who just discovered she needs a bra." She gestured at her chest, where her breasts shifted with every bump in the road, a sensation that was equal parts fascinating and uncomfortable. "These things move constantly. It's like having 2 bowls of Jell-O strapped to your chest." Brian waggled his eyebrows dramatically, looking far too amused. "Hey, if you want, I'll help you pick one out. I'm practically an expert in women's underwear." He paused for effect, "at least in taking it off." Nicole snorted, half amused, half mortified. "You're impossible." She crossed her arms over her chest, then immediately uncrossed them when the pressure created an impressive cleavage. "And for the record, you are not helping me try on bras." "Your loss," Brian said with a theatrical sigh. "I've been told I have an excellent eye for cup sizes. It's like a superpower." "More like super creepy," Nicole muttered, but a smile tugged at the corner of her mouth. She couldn't help it. Brian's relentless humor was exactly what she needed right now. He winked, shooting her a sidelong glance. "But you love me." She rolled her eyes, but couldn't help smiling. As weird as all of this was, Brian's teasing was the one thing that still felt the same, an anchor in a world suddenly turned upside down. "Someone has to," she quipped. "Exactly," Brian agreed cheerfully. "Now let's talk strategy. What kind of woman do you want to be? Sporty, sexy, hipster, corporate?" Nicole blinked, caught off guard by the question. She looked down at her borrowed clothes, Brian's hoodie hanging off one shoulder, a pair of his sister's sweatpants cinched tight at the waist. "I just want to be comfortable." "Comfort is for grandmas and people who have given up," Brian declared, turning into the massive parking lot of Macy's. "You, my friend, have been given a gift, the world's most effective makeover. We're going to make the most of it." Nicole's gaze drifted to the mannequin in the window, which wore a lacy pink number that made her instinctively cross her arms over her chest again. The gesture now felt familiar, as if her body had always known how to move this way. "I don't need to look like that," she protested, nodding toward the lingerie display. "Of course not," Brian agreed, parking with his usual haphazard approach to the lines. "You need to look better than that. That mannequin has no ass." "Brian," Nicole couldn't help the laugh that burst out of her. "What? It's true. You've got assets now, might as well flaunt them." They climbed out of the car, Nicole still adjusting to her new center of gravity. Her hips swayed naturally with each step, a movement she wasn't consciously initiating, but that seemed coded into her new body's DNA. She caught her reflection in the store window and paused, still startled by the beautiful stranger staring back at her. Brian led the way inside, talking a mile a minute. "Rule number 1, don't trust the size charts. They're designed by men who have never had to squeeze into a pair of skinny jeans. Rule number 2, If it looks cute on the hanger, it'll probably look like a potato sack on your body. And rule number 3, never ever try on thongs unless you're emotionally prepared for a wedgie from hell. Nicole burst out laughing, a sound that was startlingly musical coming from her new vocal cords. Several nearby shoppers turned to look, and she suddenly realized how attractive this body was, not just to her, but to others. She ducked her head, feeling her cheeks flush pink. Brian grinned, nudging her with his elbow. "See, you're fitting in already. Nothing says woman like being stared at in a department store." "Great," Nicole muttered. "Just what I always wanted, random attention from strangers." They wandered into the lingerie section, a sea of lace, satin, and elastic that made Nicole's courage evaporate like water on hot pavement. Bras, panties, and nighties hung in every color imaginable, grouped by style and size in a system that seemed designed to confuse and intimidate. "How do women do this?" she whispered, genuinely awed by the complexity. "There are like 50 different kinds of bras." "The female experience, it's not for the faint of heart," Brian agreed, picking up a particularly intricate contraption with multiple straps. "What the hell is this? A bra or a rope course?" "Put that down," Nicole hissed, glancing around to see if anyone was watching them. She caught sight of herself in a nearby mirror, a pretty girl with tousled auburn hair in Brian's old hoodie and baggy sweatpants, looking utterly lost. The contrast between her delicate features and her oversized clothes was almost comical. Brian held up a lacy blue bra with underwire and substantial padding. "This one's cute, plus it's got padding, bonus points for cleavage." Nicole blushed furiously, the color spreading from her cheeks down her neck. "I don't even know my size," she whispered, eyeing the bra with a mixture of curiosity and terror. He shrugged, adding it to the growing pile in his arms. "That's what fitting rooms are for. Come on, live a little. Worst case, you flash a sales lady. Best case, you learn something about yourself." "You're enjoying this way too much," Nicole accused, but there was no real heat behind it. In truth, she was grateful for Brian's enthusiasm. It made the whole bizarre situation feel almost normal. "Obviously," Brian agreed without a hint of shame. "My best friend turns into a hot chick overnight. This is like the plot of a movie I definitely would have watched as a teenager." "Gross," Nicole said, but she was smiling. A middle-aged sales associate with a measuring tape around her neck approached them, her expression professionally neutral. "Can I help you find something today?" Brian opened his mouth, clearly about to launch into some elaborate explanation, but Nicole cut him off. "Yes, please," she said, her new voice sweet and slightly husky. "I need, well, everything. I've lost some weight recently, and none of my old things fit." It wasn't entirely a lie. She had, in a sense, lost about 70 pounds of male muscle and bone overnight. The sales associate, whose name tag read Gloria, nodded sympathetically. "Congratulations, let's get you measured, shall we?" What followed was 30 minutes of the most intimate education Nicole had ever received. Gloria, it turned out, had been fitting women for bras for 27 years and had seen it all, honey, don't you worry. She whisked Nicole into a fitting room, whipped out her measuring tape, and proceeded to wrap it around various parts of Nicole's torso with brisk efficiency. 32, and let's see. Yes, definitely a D cup. Maybe even DD depending on the brand. You've got quite a lovely figure, dear." Nicole stood frozen, arms lifted awkwardly, as Gloria circled her like a shark. The measuring tape felt cool against her skin, a constant reminder of the dramatic changes her body had undergone. Her waist measured a shocking 24 inches, a number that seemed impossibly small, while her hips flared out to 36 inches, creating the kind of hourglass figure usually reserved for comic book heroines. After a lot of nervous giggling and some help from the surprisingly chill Gloria, Nicole found herself alone in a changing room, arms full of bras, panties, and a few basic clothing items. She locked the door, took a deep breath, and peeled off Brian's hoodie. The overhead lighting was unforgiving, highlighting every curve and contour of her new body. She stared at her reflection, petite but shapely, with the kind of proportions she'd only ever admired from afar. Her skin was soft and flawless, almost luminous under the fluorescence, with a scattering of freckles across her shoulders that hadn't been there before. Her waist nipped in dramatically before flaring out to generous hips, creating a silhouette that was almost cartoonishly feminine. And her breasts, they were perfect. Full and round, sitting high on her chest despite their generous size, with rosy nipples that pebbled in the cool air of the fitting room. She cupped them experimentally, marveling at their weight and sensitivity. Even that light touch sent an unfamiliar thrill racing through her body, a tingling warmth that pooled in her lower abdomen. "Jesus," she whispered, watching her lips form the word. Even her mouth was different, fuller, softer, with a natural pout that made her look perpetually ready for a kiss. She tried on a pale pink bra first, fumbling with the clasp behind her back. Her arms didn't seem to bend the right way, and the hooks and eyes refused to align. After several frustrated attempts, she burst out laughing at her own clumsiness. "How do women do this every day?" she muttered, finally managing to secure the clasp on the third try. The sensation was odd, constrictive but supportive, like a firm handshake for her chest. When she finally got it adjusted properly, she stared at her reflection wide-eyed. "Damn," she breathed, "I look cute." The bra lifted and separated, creating a perfect valley of cleavage that made her look both innocent and alluring. The pale pink color complemented her fair skin, making her look fresh and feminine. She turned to the side, admiring the profile, her breasts now perfectly contained, their shape enhanced by the underwire and light padding. Next, she slipped on a matching pair of panties, the lace feeling delicate and somehow decadent against her skin. She turned this way and that, studying the way the fabric hugged her hips and the curve of her backside. The feeling was strangely intimate, more sensual than she'd expected. She ran her hands down her sides, tracing the new lines of her body, and shivered at the sensitivity of her skin. Every touch was a discovery, the dip of her waist, the flare of her hips, the surprising firmness of her thighs. Her body responded to even the lightest contact, goosebumps rising along her arms, a warm tension building in her core. It was overwhelming, this heightened sensitivity, as if someone had turned up the dial on her nervous system. A soft knock interrupted her exploration. "You alive in there, Nicole, or did the push-up bra eat you?" Brian's voice was a welcome anchor to reality. Nicole grinned at her reflection, marveling at how beautiful her smile looked on this face. "Just give me a minute, perv." "Hey, I'm being a supportive friend," Brian protested through the door. "I could be taking bets with the security guard on whether you've strangled yourself with a garter belt by now." Nicole snorted, reaching for the pile of clothes Gloria had selected. "Your concern is touching." Brian laughed, and she could picture him leaning against the wall outside, arms crossed, that familiar smirk on his face. "Take your time. Nobody forgets their first fitting room meltdown. It's like a feminine rite of passage." "I'm not having a meltdown," Nicole called back, pulling on a pair of dark skinny jeans that hugged every curve. They were snug, very snug, but in a way that felt surprisingly good. "I'm having a moment." "That's what they all say," Brian replied cheerfully. "Next comes the tears, then the buying of shoes you don't need, and finally, the ceremonial burning of your ex's sweatshirt." "I don't have an ex," Nicole pointed out, pulling on a soft, fitted tee in a deep emerald that matched her eyes. The fabric clung to her curves in a way that was both flattering and slightly terrifying. She'd never been so on display before. "Give it time," Brian said. "With that face and those legs, you'll be breaking hearts by dinner time." Nicole examined herself in the mirror. The outfit was simple but effective. The jeans showcased her curves, the top brought out the green in her eyes, and the lingerie underneath made her feel strangely powerful, like she was carrying a delicious secret. She gathered up a few more outfits she'd tried on, a flowy skirt that twirled when she moved, a fitted dress that hugged every curve, a silky blouse that felt amazing against her skin, and stepped out of the fitting room. Brian's jaw dropped, his usual quip dying on his lips. For once, he seemed genuinely speechless. Gloria, returning with another armful of options, beamed like a proud mother. "Oh, honey, look at you." Nicole shifted her weight, suddenly self-conscious under their scrutiny. "Is it okay?" Brian seemed to recover his voice, giving her a slow, appreciative look that started at her face and traveled deliberately down to her toes and back again. "Damn, you clean up good. You could break a few hearts dressed like that." There was something in his tone, a new note she couldn't quite identify. It wasn't just teasing anymore. There was an edge of genuine appreciation that made her stomach do a little flip. Nicole smirked, a surge of confidence flowing through her. She struck a pose, one hip cocked, channeling every fashion magazine she'd ever flipped through. Maybe I'll start with yours. Brian grinned, but there was something gentler in his eyes now, a flicker of something almost like admiration. Nah, you'd have to get in line behind half the guys in this store. She followed his gaze and realized he wasn't exaggerating. Several male shoppers had paused, pretending to examine merchandise while stealing glances in her direction. One particularly bold specimen was openly staring, a dress shirt forgotten in his hands. The attention was bizarre, flattering and unsettling in equal measure. Was this what attractive women dealt with all the time? No wonder Laura always seemed so aware of her surroundings. Nicole laughed, a rich, bright sound that turned a few more heads. This is weird. Welcome to being hot, Brian said with a shrug. It's a blessing and a curse. Mostly a curse, from what I've seen, Nicole replied, thinking of all the times she'd watched Laura navigate unwanted attention. Speaking as a card-carrying member of the male species, I can confirm we are the worst, Brian agreed cheerfully. Now, are you getting all of that, or do I need to stage an intervention? Nicole looked down at the pile of clothes in her arms. I guess I need all of it, unless you want me to keep wearing your sister's sweatpants forever. She'd probably notice eventually, Brian conceded. They made their way to the checkout, where Gloria rang up their selections with cheerful efficiency. Brian kept sneaking additional items into the pile, a leopard print scarf, a pair of oversized sunglasses, and when Nicole wasn't looking, a pack of neon thongs with days of the week embroidered on them. Really? Nicole asked when she spotted them, raising an eyebrow in a gesture that felt perfectly natural in her new face. Every woman needs day-of-the-week underwear, Brian insisted. It's like a law or something. Since when are you an expert on women's necessities? Nicole asked, swatting his arm but making no move to remove the thongs from the pile. There was something oddly appealing about the bright colors and cheeky slogans. I'm a student of life, Brian replied loftily. Also, my sister left her laundry at my place for like 6 months. You learn things. Nicole snorted, handing over her credit card to Gloria. That explains so much about you. As they left, arms full of bags, Nicole felt lighter, awkward, yes, but also a little bit excited. For the first time since waking up in this new body, she didn't just feel like an imposter in female skin. She felt like she could be whoever she wanted, starting now. The sunlight outside was bright after the fluorescent lighting of the store. Nicole slipped on her new sunglasses, the oversized frames somehow perfect for her heart-shaped face. She caught her reflection in a store window, a beautiful young woman laden with shopping bags, looking like she'd stepped out of a romantic comedy. Not bad, she murmured, tilting her head to examine herself from different angles. Brian slung an arm around her shoulders, the weight comfortingly familiar even as it reminded her how much smaller she was now. Next up, makeup, or cocktails. Which crisis do you want to tackle first? Nicole grinned, a surge of reckless joy bubbling through her. Why not embrace the chaos? Both, but only if you promise not to let me drunk text Laura. Laura? The name sent a strange flutter through her chest, a mixture of anxiety and something else she couldn't quite identify. What would Laura think of her now? Would she even recognize the person Nick had become? Brian laughed, the sound bringing her back to the present. No promises, you're a wild card now, Nicole Wolf, and I'm here for the show. You're a terrible influence, she informed him, but there was no heat in it. The worst, he agreed cheerfully, helping her load the bags into the trunk of his car. But admit it, you're having fun. And the thing was, despite everything, the shock, the confusion, the lingering fear that this might be permanent, Nicole found that she was. There was something liberating about stepping into this new skin, about discovering the world from a completely different perspective. Maybe a little, she admitted, sliding into the passenger seat with newfound grace. Brian grinned, turning the key in the ignition. That's my girl. Nicole just smiled, letting herself enjoy the chaos. New body, new world, and her best friend at her side.